It is for the theologian in me to come to the question, did God create man? But the psychologist in me would want to answer your question in a different way. Did man create the image of God? He cannot go beyond looking at image. And I suspect what we've heard in the discussion tonight is a whole lot about the variability in the image that is used, but we haven't been able to get on to the ontology beyond that image.
I'm sorry, everybody, but we've run out of time. The choice that is open to us is whether God made man or man made God. It's now over to you. All that remains for me to do is to thank the audience for their contributions and, of course, the panel. I'm sorry we didn't have time to say any more, and from me, good night.
Mr. Chairman, if you would allow me, I would like my brothers and sisters to loosen their limbs. If they stand up and take a deep breath before sitting down again. All of you, please. Please. Take a deep breath or two and loosen your limbs and you can relax. The previous two lectures, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, the previous two speakers, have been dealing with this theme of the East and the West getting together, meeting. The East meets the West. It's a kind of a symposium we have been having. And in that symposium, the subject of law seems to be very technical and very dry. And to build bridges between the East and the West, as now, most probably in the minds of the organizers, they have taken me as a man from the East. And they are right in that I have really come from the East. I am a man who was born in India some 60 years ago. So I am really a man of the East. But since the theme that has been selected for me is religious, about Islam, now I take exception to Islam being described as a religion of the East. If we take Islam to be an Eastern religion, then Judaism and Christianity are equally Eastern. Because Islam, Judaism and Christianity, all these three originate in the same geographical area in the Middle East. Though I personally come from India, and my forefathers were Muslims, born Muslims, originally in the very dim past Hindus. But now to share this East and West, for the moment if I agree that Islam is from the East, and the Western religions would be then Judaism and Christianity, for the purpose of this discussion this evening, I will accept that. So what is the relationship between these three? Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. In reality, from the Muslim point of view, these three are not three religions. From the Muslim point of view, it's the one and the same religion on different levels. And in the fundamentals of the teachings of Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, there is not an iota of difference. Sounds surprising, doesn't it? In the fundamentals of the teachings of Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, there is not an iota of difference between these three. And I prove it to you. I said, you see, the very first commandment, as it was given by God Almighty to the Holy Prophet Moses, in Hebrew, this is what it sounds like. So, Shama Israelu Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, which means, hear, O Israel, the Lord, our God, the Lord is one. Some 1,300 years after Moses, a learned man of the Jews, described as a scribe, he poses the question to Jesus in the Gospel of St. Mark, chapter 12, verse 29. He said, Master, in the Hebrew language, Rabbi, what commandment is the first of all? And Jesus answers and says unto him in the Hebrew language, Shama Israelu Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. He repeated word for word what was given by Moses some 1300 years before. Not an iota of difference in the fundamental as given by Moses and Jesus. Coming to Muhammad, some 600 years later, after Jesus Christ, a Christian deputation approaches Muhammad in Medina, and they have a discussion, a dialogue for 3 days and 3 nights. During the course of this dialogue, the spokesman for the Christian poses the question. He said, "Oh Muhammad, all right, tell us now, what is your concept of God?" And Muhammad, as the Muslims believe, was made to say, on the authority of God, in the Arabic language, he said, "Qul huwallahu ahad." Say, He is God, the one and only. Muhammad said, "Ahad." Jesus said, "Echad." Moses said, "Echad." I'm asking, what is the difference? Actually, it is the same word meaning the same thing. The difference between ahad and echad in Arabic, it was a blackboard here, I would have written it for you. If I wrote ahad, and to make it into echad, I just have to put a dot on the ha. It becomes ha. That's all. It's only the difference of a dot in the calligraphy, in writing. But in the meaning, the sense, 100% the same. So we Muslims, we say that in the fundamentals of the teachings of the prophets, no difference. Then these differences that are there, we say these were out of necessity. See, Islam, we say, is the culmination of the teachings of Moses and Jesus, brought to perfection. The holy prophet Moses, we Muslims, we accept him as our own prophet, as we accept all the Jewish prophets as our prophets. That Moses was catering for the needs of his people. They had just been rescued from the Egyptian bondage. They were traveling in the Sinai Peninsula, oasis to oasis. A nation under those circumstances needed a law that would give them quick justice, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. There was no time for lengthy litigations. There was no time for putting a man in prison. That antisocial character, the adulterer, kill him, stone him to death, get rid of him. It was more merciful to kill him, stone him, than to leave him in the desert to die of hunger and thirst. And he becomes an object lesson for others. He says, you see, this guy here, according to our system, he could have had 100 wives. Because there was no law. There was no law among the Jews as to the limit of the wives. Solomon, if you read the Holy Bible, we are told, had